Good morning, you guys. So I just want to give you a heads up before we start this video today. I've gotten some feedback from you guys that the videos have been really helpful so far, and that you've been doing pretty good with the homework assignments, things like that. Don't forget, if you have questions or if there's things you need clarified from me, that I have office hours Monday through Thursday. And I believe, let me double check so I don't screw up which day is which. So Monday, Wednesday is from 10 a.m. to 11:30, and then Tuesday, Thursdays is from 11:30 to 1. So don't be scared to pop in, ask a quick question, and head out. It's purely just to say hi and ask a quick question, and you're good to go. But so far, I've gotten a lot of feedback that you guys are doing okay, so that's a good sign. The reason I want to bring that up at the start of this video is because this week is when we start getting into something that's a little bit more complicated and might need more clarification. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that that was available, okay? All right, so if we start at the top reading, it says, today you will construct the 3 special right triangles accurately using a protractor and a ruler. If you don't have a protractor and ruler, don't panic. I'm going to tell you what you can do, okay? Construct each triangle in a unique color, but do not color it in, and use the colored pencil to draw the sides. You will label each side appropriately using the patterns, and you will identify each triangle in both degrees and radians. Once each triangle is constructed, you will write out the 6 trigonometric functions of each triangle. So here's what I mean by that, you guys. I want you to literally make those 3 special right triangles and label everything about them. We're going to talk about why there's 3, because last week you were only really working with 2. There's a reason for that. Tomorrow's video, you're going to actually be taking these 3 triangles and using them to construct what is called a unit circle. So if you have these 3 triangles drawn out and color coded today, you will be more prepared to make what I'm going to ask you to make tomorrow, if that makes sense. Nothing is due today. You don't have to turn in your picture of your 3 triangles, but just trust me, if you already have them drawn out and labeled and ready to go by the end of today, you will be very thankful when we get to what we're doing tomorrow, okay? So, step 1, using a protractor and a ruler, construct a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Note, do not worry about exact lengths of sides, but rather exact angle measurements, okay? Then, when you construct your triangle with a colorful outline, use the 45 degrees in the bottom left corner, the 90 degrees in the bottom right corner, and the other 45-degree angle at the top. So, meaning when you go to draw it, you guys, when I say 45 in the bottom left corner, I mean like this. 90 degree in the bottom right corner, so then there's a 45 up at the top, okay? So kind of like that style. So here's what I recommend. Obviously, most of you guys probably do not have a protractor at home. And honestly, if you have a ruler, that's great, but some of you guys probably don't even have a ruler at home, and that's okay. So here's a recommendation. If you do not have a protractor or ruler at home, you can actually go to this link right here. It's very similar to our Desmos graphing calculator we've used in the past, but it's purely for geometry constructions, and you can actually draw the pictures using this link. It's a little more technical, so if you're not super into like using computers or trying a new technique, you don't necessarily have to. You can always just do the best to draw an accurate triangle as best as you can on a separate sheet of paper. So, but I figured I would include this as another option for those of you guys that do like to play around with new technology and try something a little bit different. When you are done, your 45, 45, 90 triangle should look like this. There's a couple things I want to point out. Notice how I have the side lengths measured, where these are both labeled 1. If you literally constructed it using a ruler, you did not have to make each side length exactly 1 inch or anything like that, okay? Really what happens though is even if your side lengths were, let's say, here, let me use a pen here. Let's say this side length was actually 6. Well, then this side length would be exactly 6, and this one would be whatever 6 times square root of 2 is. So even if you didn't have the exact measurements, what I like to call these numbers, these are like the ratios, where they're kind of like multipliers. So if you remember back to geometry, you can use similar triangles, and it'll be essentially the same ratio, the same pattern, even if it's not the exact length. Another thing to notice as well, notice how I've labeled all of the angle measures in degrees. I have also labeled all the angle measures in radians, so please make sure that when you are constructing these, you're doing this. Notice how my 45, 45, 90 is in blue. That's going to come in later tomorrow in tomorrow's lesson, okay? All right, so I already said label the angle measures in your picture in both degrees and radians, so you should be good there. Label your two side lengths as 1 and the hypotenuse accordingly using our patterns. Here's the part I'd like you to do next. Okay, write out those 6 trig ratios of your triangle using 45 degrees as your angle of reference. Meaning, remember when we talked about that notation, angle of reference, that means use this guy right here as your angle of reference. Okay, so here's my H, my O, and my A. Using that idea, I want you to fill out those trig ratios. So for example, sine of theta, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So if I go back to here, my opposite is 1, my hypotenuse is square root of 2. So I would write 1 over square root of 2. Here's the exception for this one. We talked about rationalizing the denominator. You cannot have square root of 2 in the bottom of a fraction, in a ratio. You can have it on the top, that's okay, but having it in the bottom is not allowed. So what we have to do is we have to multiply, kind of like we did last week, by root 2 over root 2, and turn this into square root of 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom, okay? So if you get a ratio where you have a square root on the bottom, make sure that you are rationalizing that denominator to get the true ratio. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video, fill in the other 5 trig ratios, and rationalize the denominator if you have to. Then when you're ready, unpause the video and I will show you my answers. All right, so if you go to, hopefully you've had a chance to give these a try. Here are the answers that I was looking for. Notice how I rewrote them. I highly recommend that you rewrite them with that triangle. So on a piece of paper, make sure you have a picture of your 45, 45, 90 triangle all labeled and things like that. And then you also have all of these guys written out as you see it on here, okay? All right, let's keep going. Next, you're going to construct a 30, 60, 90. You're going to use a colorful outline, but a different color than the previous triangle. So for example, I used blue on my 45, 45, 90. You'll notice, I believe I use orange on this one to kind of help you out. Use the 30 degrees in the bottom left corner, the 90 degrees in the bottom right corner, with the 60-degree angle on the top. Again, don't worry about length measurements, really focus on making those degree measurements. Also remember, if you don't have a protractor, you can go to that link that I showed you at the beginning of this video, and that can help you construct it. All right, so make sure once you have it constructed, you've labeled your degrees, also label your side lengths, and make sure you label everything in radians as well. So here is what your construction should look like when you are ready. Okay, I used green. I apologize. I thought I used orange for this one. But so I colored it in green. Again, notice how I have all the degree measures, like I have all the sides, the ratios labeled. I have all the degrees labeled, and I have each angle labeled in radians. Make sure you have all of that information. All right, next thing I'd like you to do is write your trig ratios using 30 degrees as your angle of reference. So if we go back to that page, remember angle of reference, if we're using the 30-degree angle, I want you to use this guy as your angle of reference. So here's your O, your H, and your A, okay? So again, looking at this slide, fill out these 6 trig ratios. When you are ready, I will show you the answers and you can unpause the video. Remember to rationalize the denominator. So if you get square root of 3 on the bottom, that's not allowed. So you would have to multiply, okay? So go ahead and pause the video, write out your 6 trig ratios, and then unpause it when you're ready to see the answers. All right, here are the answers for these 6. They should look something like this. So again, remember, make sure you have in a different color your 30, 60, 90. That looks just like that on a piece of paper. I colored mine in green, okay? Make sure you're using a different color. And then have all 6 of these trig ratios written out next to it. If you had a hard time with this one, please note how that kind of works. You get 2 over square root of 3 as your ratio. So when we multiply by square root of 3 over square root of 3, that's where this particular ratio came from. If you're still struggling with that, remember, come see me during office hours and I can try to clarify that. All right, so I talked about 3 special right triangles, and so far, well, those are the 2, right? 45, 45, 90, 30, 60, 90. Here's the part that's going to be a little bit different though. you can draw the 30, 60, 90 using the different angle in the bottom right corner. So we just did 30 degrees as our angle of reference. What I'm going to ask you to do next is construct a triangle with the 60 degrees in the bottom left corner, the 30 degree up here, and the 90 down here. Please make sure, again, use a different color. So this one, I believe I used orange. Use a different color. Make sure you're labeling the ratios, the side lengths with the particular numbers they're supposed to have, and that you are labeling all your degree measures in radians. Once you've made your construction, either using that link or off to the side on a piece of paper. Remember, if you want to do it on a piece of paper and it's not 100% accurate, don't panic. It's more about the idea of it, okay? Go ahead and unpause the video when you're ready to see the answer. All right, so here's my 30, 60, 90 triangle with the 60 degrees as our reference angle. Again, notice how I have all three ratio sides measured, all three degree measures, and all three as radians as well. Okay, so next step, same thing. Last time we're going to do it though, I want you to write out those 6 trig ratios. So sine of theta equals this over this, just like you've done for the last 2. But this time, use that 60 degree angle as your reference angle. So here's your O, your H, and your A. Okay, so take a minute, try those 6 ratios. Again, rationalize the denominator if you need to. And then when you're ready, unpause the video and I will show you my answers. All right, so here's what you should have come up with for those 6 trig ratios. Again, we got that another one that's a little bizarre, kind of like we did on the last one. Okay, so here's the goal for today, you guys. By the end of this video, what I'm looking for is you have, either using technology or on a blank sheet of paper, you have each of these 3 triangles drawn out in 3 different colors. And underneath each of those 3 triangles, you have the 6 trig ratios written out. Okay, that is your assignment for today. You do not have to turn anything in. You do not need to submit a picture. There's no official homework yet. Just following along with the video and making the constructions was your assignment for today. Remember, you're going to keep that piece of paper or those constructions, those drawings, those trig ratios, keep them somewhere safe because I will be referring back to them tomorrow with something else. Make sure you keep those same 3 colors on hand as well if you can. And if you have a printer, awesome. If you don't, if you have a blank sheet of paper, notebook paper is fine, but actually if you have like copy paper or something that's plain, that might be better if you don't have a printer. You'll see what I mean when I send out the video for tomorrow. All right, remember, if you guys have questions or if you're stuck on anything, feel free to pop in for office hours so that I can help. Good luck.